Alright, making a video. Wasn't going to, but I said, what the hell? Gotta do the longer walk today. Um, so there's just this general subject still of value. I've watched the first 30 seconds of a Rizzle Dizzle video, and he's rationalizing eating meat. And that's all this is, right? These rationalizations that somehow it's how you think about your suffering that makes your suffering mean something. We're going to keep hearing crap like that. And yeah, certainly you can make it worse, make it less. Some suffering is entirely psychologically generated, in that it's an emotional suffering. It's hard to draw these lines just because, obviously things like anxiety and, different kinds of reactions require the involvement of your glandular system, and it gets rather complex. Oh, a fawn. Oh, lots of those around now, unfortunately. More life to be disposed of, one way or the other. Anyway, arrow food, just disgusting. Anyway, so and this comes up in these conversations with other people, in that somehow, because humans have an opinion regarding the worth of their suffering, because they have ambitions and desires that are quite obtuse or estranged from what you might call normal mammal behavior. Most mammals are kind of cliche in their ambitions, kind of narrow. They don't invest their egos in bizarre manifestations of it, like climbing a mountain for the sake of climbing a mountain. They just do the food women thing, or mate thing, let's say, and if they're raising young, then they do that. But they have a very limited choice in jobs, where humans can acquire all kinds of funky ambitions and invest in things like somebody winning the World Series, and think that's important, and get all happy and satisfied if things turn out the way they want. Other mammals don't have access to those soap operas, and so they don't get caught up in that vicarious living. They're too busy living to vicariously live. They don't really have a great fantasy life, let's say. But that's the only difference. It's why you're feeling, not what you're feeling. So again, these people just keep wanting to say, my ambitions, or a human's ambitions, have some sort of intrinsic value, when the only value they have is that you'll be happy or unhappy based on whether you satisfy those ambitions, or feel you're liberated to strive towards them. And any force that's stopping you might be oppressive and suffocating, might be the kind of language we would use. That your creativity and your all this stuff you have that has to be getting out, it's being caged by some force, and therefore you're harmed by the inhibition of your liberty. But yes, the only thing that really matters is the fact that you feel the intimidation, or the inhibition, or the suffocation. It doesn't really matter that there's no merit to it in and of itself. That the only ambition a human can have that has any real merit is the ambition to spare other sentient beings from suffering. That's the only ambition that can have any, that one could say is a worthwhile adventure. The rest of it is nonsense. Clearly, you can have an adventure that does produce happiness for people, because you could fail preposterously. It could be on video, and lots of people could laugh at your failure. But once again, that's kind of a backdoor way, to get into the Hall of Fame. You're not doing it on purpose, for sure, and the bottom line is people are, again, being pleased by crap. It's a fact that they're pleased, but there's nothing meritorious in what's pleasing them. It's just subjective programming, reflex in their psychology that produces the effect, but it doesn't mean anything in terms of merit. The only merit is their comfort, our joy, our satisfaction. And certainly could be argued for every one of the satisfactions achieved through this ambition mechanism produces many more losers than winners. And so in the end, there's more people lamenting their loss of the World Series than there are people celebrating the victory. It seems inevitable, statistically. When you count the playoffs and all the other teams invested in the achieving the trophy. So failure, again, like nature's attrition, there's more animals, that will not achieve maturation and survival, to any real sense, to a complete sense. They won't even achieve their, the statistical. They won't achieve the outcome, of actually successfully replicating their molecule. Their failure will be early and complete, and that's the price you pay for this crap, this stuff. So I guess another way I wanted to argue this is that the real complexity of it, if there is any complexity, is in the measurement of one thing against another thing, one joy against another misery. And there's these levels. So you could say on the simplest level, if we gave all benefit of the doubt and gave satisfied desire, heavy value weight as a good, and the pain is only the necessary amount of value, which seems what the rationalizers wish to do. They wish to minimize the suffering of the victim by saying the victim is incompetent, or it isn't sophisticated enough to know what pain is, or do some other kind of thing. And again, they want to aggrandize the victimizer's need for their comfort, and place a huge value on the comfort, huge positive value on achieving the ambition of the humanoid thingy. But even from that argument, again, just in raw numbers, I think it's quite rationally argued that our tendency towards huge failures, like World War II, where 50 million people are disposed of in all kinds of insidious manners, tons of suffering, especially all the collateral suffering, just something, just such an immense amount of suffering that juxtaposed any human ambition would be made trivial by comparison. So I think the argument can be won, even granting their preposterous value distortions. But I think if you're going to get realer and realer about the value game. Then you start getting into arguments about the difference between consensual participation and non-consensual participation, and the ethics get even tighter and tighter. When you start imposing, on entities that have no capacity, no competence to make a judgment. You enslave them to a bored machine that just produces them and never gives them the judgment capacity, the intelligence to evaluate their circumstance and say, no, this is a game too insidious to play. I do not wish to maintain my existence at the cost of torturing other sentient creatures. That's not an acceptable formula. And if the game isn't played by some other formula, I certainly wouldn't raise my hand to participate in such a game. There are things like dog fighting and bullfighting that are banned for reasons that are perfectly sensible, that our capacity to be entertained, there are infinitely many, almost, and infinitely better choices or mechanisms through which to drive entertainment than wasting. It is a preposterous waste, wasting the torment of sentient creatures. It's just preposterous to permit such poor value performance to be something humans feed on or gain their gratification from, when their gratification can be so easily equally achieved through other means. So, relating back to the vegetarian argument, clearly, even if you're currently addicted to meat, you should be able to recognize and concede that there's no reason, there's no rational, logical, sensible logic that you could apply to justify not having the future do better than you. It's any addicted person should be able to concede, especially when the addiction has so overtly a negative component tied to it, and when there's so much evidence that the addiction is completely not vital or fundamental to gratification and satisfaction. Clearly people can be quite satisfied in their lives without being meat eaters. There's just no doubt about it. And why would you impose that addiction on a future player when there's absolutely no need to do that? And that's where these people are invidious in their rationalizations, because they're not even willing to make these simple logical concessions, that there is absolutely no reason to create the addiction in the next generation, that would be clearly just horribly irresponsible in effect. There's just no good reason to do that. Sorry, I had to do a little repair. So it's not even so much about changing your own behavior and sacrificing and compromising your happiness and all that crap. It's just conceding to the fundamental logic that you're not going to make things better by pretending there is no such thing as better. I mean, that's a certain way of failing to improve circumstances, is to pretend there is no improvement. Cop out all the way. So, enough said on that. I don't think I need to do anything else here. Could clean some leaves, but hell with it. Later. Excuse me. So anyway. Yeah, so there's all these. Right, no, that's the wrong way to put it. There aren't all that many different ways of looking at this. There's like 3 or 4 ways to evaluate the experience of our comfort, and we can understand that there's just the basic fact of what makes us comfortable. You know, how comfortable we are, how uncomfortable we are, how we can have high maintenance dispositions where we need a very quiet environment. Like I'm very sensitive to noises, and lots of things irritate me. So, you know, I'm kind of a high maintenance in the sense that I need a certain kind of environment construction to maintain any kind of comfort, peace, quiet inside my physiology. And there's low maintenance. You know, people can be comfortable anywhere. They're generally relaxed and generally susceptible to jokery and other pleasantries. And then it goes, this next level is these, you know, subjective conditioned desires and ambitions. You know, how much you need something, you know, how boreable you are, let's say. So although I'm very sensitive, I'm also very invulnerable almost to any kind of boredom, because I always have a whole list of things to contemplate and think about, to work on, lots of problems to solve, lots of puzzles having to do with reality and working things out to contemplate. So there's always work to be done, and you know, there's other people that need roller coasters and Ferris wheels, and they need all kinds of fancy TV shows and 5-dimensional sound, and they need all kinds of stuff. There's no satisfaction there. They don't find it, you know, that's an inadequate meal. So they're kind of a high maintenance in the sense they need a meal that has a lot more stuff in it. I guess they're doing some paving. Caution, raised manholes. Yeah. So, sorry for the noise. Didn't know it was paving season. There you go. Yeah, got all kinds of curbs, and it'd be nice if they paved our road sometime and actually put sidewalks in. It's really, you really feel like you're putting your life on the line to walk down my street. It's also kind of a straight road. People bomb down it. You know, so the pond's looking quite horrible. Yeah, it's all filled in here now. So it's only a foot deep for most of it. Makes for quite the swamp by late summer. Quite putrid. And you'd think, though, it would generate quite a bit of wildlife. You know, being warm and swampy, and having lots of crap growing in it. But it does seem to have the opposite effect. It doesn't seem to, everything seems to just choke on all the crud and die. Not even frogs or anything. But I think that has something to do with some other environmental feature, too much phosphorus or something. I think it's just something that's been happening over the last 4 decades. Everything's gotten too acid or too something. You know, the whole ecology here is pretty barren. You know, very few minnows in the stream, no snails, and very few turtles or frogs or all that. That whole ecology is just ground to nothing. So anyway, probably enough of a video. So yeah, I'll probably end up playing the Rizzle Dizzle video and respond to it, but these are just rationalizations. They're just people trying to excuse how much they take out of the world by minimizing their effect on the victims, by minimizing what it means to torture. It's just like politicians, rationalizing, excusing the glibness which they dispose of their adversaries, and that's all it is. It's just glibbery in the name of a bad performance that should just be admitted, that should just be conceded, and they should grow the fuck up and do the fuck better, and at least talk a better game. No reason to, like I said, sustain bad habits, bad memes, bad ideas. An addiction to this game and defending of this game is certainly a bad habit, a bad meme, a bad idea. It deserves nothing. It's earned nothing. It's just not made of anything good. It really isn't. The only thing it has on its side is a very prejudiced and bigoted home team, home crowd. That's pretty much all you people are. It's the home crowd, bourgeoisly showing up to show your support, for your small-minded, bigoted view of reality. And you're not displaying much in the way of intelligence. So, till next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot.